What is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another episode of The Kingdom Says. I am your host, as always, Garrett Williams. I am joined tonight by my usual co-host, Kyle Henning. How we doing tonight, Kyle?
Doing well. Another
That's good.
Victory Monday. Now, probably, well, technically it's Tuesday where I'm at, but it'll be Monday.
It's Monday for me. It's Monday for me. It still counts. Still counts. We were doing this very late at night on this Monday, but still counting as Victory Monday. We're celebrating. Unfortunately, a couple other teams around the NFL are not going to be celebrating that today or tonight, like the Cincinnati Bengals, who are 0-3 now. But the Chiefs, on the opposite end of the spectrum, are now 3-0, coming off of a big win on Sunday Night Football in Atlanta. We talked about it in the last episode how this might be a little bit of a trap game, and it definitely got down there. I mean, it definitely got a little dicey. Stop me if you've heard this story again, folks, but the Chiefs did not play their best football.
No.
That seems to be the
definitely
case.
On the offense, definitely on the offensive side.
I gotta say on the offensive side, defense. The defense
played pretty well.
Does you never have to worry about the defense these days. They had the first drive where they went down the field easily, and after that it was all nothing for the defense. They held them pretty well throughout the rest of the game, even with the many opportunities that the offense, the Chiefs offense, I should say, gifted the Falcons. It was quite the game. We're going to talk about all that good stuff and all the bad stuff. Unfortunately, there's probably more bad than good, but we'll see. It might be 50-50. We'll have to break it down for you. Before we get into it, just got to remind everyone to, if you enjoyed this show, please go ahead and like and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, rate and review. If you're listening to this on Apple Music or Spotify or wherever else you get your podcasts at, it would greatly help us, and we greatly appreciate that support. And you guys continuing to rock with us as the Chiefs continue to sail through this season undefeated. Hey, it might be a 17-0 season of all these games, and I won't be super mad at it. I mean, I'll be a little mad at it, but I won't be like insanely mad. It'd be the most crazy and maybe embarrassing 17-0 season ever. But hey, it would only be the second one, so we would take it.
Look, they've not played well. Definitely on the offensive side of the ball. The defense has been pretty darn good again, like we said, but they have not, and even the defense hasn't been perfect. They played much better yesterday.
Yep.
So the fact that they're 3-0 and they've played like what general consensus is like a C to C minus overall game for them.
Max, it's like a C.
It is encouraging.
It is
to what it could be. But we again would very much like them to pretend like they would put it together before January actually get some.
Because all of a sudden now it's becoming less and less fun to watch these games. I mean, obviously it doesn't matter because at the end of the
winning is winning. But
winning is winning. And at the end of the year, obviously, like I said, the playoffs, they really turn it on and figure it out and win Super Bowls. But man, it really does tug at the
for a lot longer seasons. And I know that sounds like such first world problems, and it is. But it makes it a lot longer. Although I will say it's a lot longer, and you're winning, so it's just
that is true. A little bit different spot than we were in last year, where we were not playing good, but also losing a couple bad games. So definitely a much better spot. And this year, obviously, after what we had to face last year, there is still a little bit more calm in my eyes. There's no, I mean, obviously, when 3-0, you can't really waver too much, but like, I don't have any real long-term concerns at the moment. This is how the Chiefs have become, where they're going to play to get the win, and that's all they really care about. They don't have to do it very flashy or
And
anything.
everybody online is gonna say that they rigged it for them.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
there's
That's
no way around it. No matter
once
what you
again.
do, no matter who we play, no
Yeah, it
matter
doesn't
how
matter what
we
time. I mean, if there is a game-changing call for the Chiefs, doesn't matter what time. Even if there's 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter still, and the Chiefs are gonna get the ball back, it doesn't matter.
There's also a thing about it always being game changing, because usually we think of game changing things because the other team took advantage of that call.
Yeah,
And the Chiefs do that well, and they have forever, and it's partially because they're good and they
good
have the
teams figure out a way to win games like that, even despite penalties. And obviously, the Chiefs had their own fair share of penalties, especially on that last drive. A couple good makeup calls there, but the Chiefs are going to do what the Chiefs need to do to get to the postseason. And they know that they're not playing good. We know that they're not playing good, but they're still getting the wins, and that's the most important part. So, with that,
and some
I think
pieces are playing good. So
yeah, there are some good. Yeah, that is true. There are a lot of pieces that are playing really good football right now. It's just kind of the cohesive unit is just not quite up to par, and
not
the season's
clicking.
still early, and all the different
September.
Yeah, September, which
The
in the past
23rd/24th, depending on where
something
you
that
are.
really mattered for Chiefs fans. And honestly, these games, these past couple games have mattered pretty well, especially the first two where you're going against
Well, they all count. It's a
AFC
small
rivals.
schedule. It's 17. It's not 82 or one.
That's true. They all do count. Yeah, so it's good to
But
get those wins however you can.
yeah, ask Cincy how important these first three are.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to be interesting. We're gonna talk about it. I'd say we start with the bad stuff first, which would be the offense, which unfortunately just is a broken record for us, and the offense just cannot seem to figure itself out and stop shooting itself in the foot. As always, they were actually moving the ball better this game.
They moved the ball great. I don't understand functionally what happens to this team in the red zone. Well, not even in the red zone.
Red
inside
zone,
the 10.
short yard situation.
No, they
anything.
score from anywhere outside the 10-yard line. As soon as
once they get inside the
10-yard line, I'm like, God dang it, we're gonna do this again. Okay, great.
Yeah, it's the red zone. The red zone woes are pretty bad, and they whipped out a lot of different gimmicks and things. Obviously, we saw them last week score off a Wanye Morris touchdown. So
run power, run duo.
Some. I mean, hey, some. Sometimes, this criticism's been said before, but sometimes Andy Reid just gets a little too creative for his own good.
And I know part of it is because again we're just putting things on tape for people to have to pay attention to.
Sure are. Yeah, I mean, Andy knows how this thing goes. You put all these crazy looks on tape, and now these guys are forced to.
And then you run duo in July or in January, and all of a sudden they're like, wait, he ran straight. Why did he run straight?
Do this a long time ago? It's like, because so.
Well, because I made you think I was going to run some trick reverse handoff back.
Exactly. Yeah, we put a linebacker. We put a linebacker on at fullback, and we made you think we would never pass the ball to him. And we
direct snapped one to the running back while we put my quarterback in motion.
That was
rookie UDFA in his first start running back, putting the franchise and the league face of the league in motion out of the backfield. Andy Reid, what are you doing, sir? I know it's September, but what?
Yeah, there's some of those times where you see them line up in those formations, and it's like, oh golly, what are we gonna do?
Can you imagine, man? If you could give Carson Steele 5 minutes in an honesty bug that nobody would ever hear it. I guarantee you, he's like, I was just standing there going, don't drop the ball, don't miss the ball, don't drop the ball, don't miss the ball.
That's a big moment to put the rookie. I mean, obviously they've run that play or run similar plays with that Pacheco many times, but putting Carson Steele in that situation
on the road,
in
their own end zone, like
it was the road, but it was really,
on the road. And their jerseys have red, but it's not the same.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to tell, but it. Judging off the national anthem,
sounded awfully loud in there.
There was a lot of Chiefs fans in there, so much so that the final play for the Falcons, basically they had to go off like a silent count. And
that's a direct flight, right?
It's a quick one. Yeah, it's quick.
Yeah, it's not far.
It's not too bad of a flight. So overall theme with the offense, got to highlight and low light a couple key points. It has to start with 15. It has to start with Patrick Mahomes. Pat just right now is not playing his best football, and that's okay.
The first drive, he just looked off.
Yeah, he looked off a good amount of plays, and I don't know exactly what all is going on with him. I think it's obviously it's a lot of it's mental. He acknowledged at post game that he's not really sticking to his fundamentals, kind of getting a little loosey goosey with some of these throws that he made. Obviously, he has the interception in the end zone where he kind of just lofts it up there.
He has a magnet to throw the ball to Justin Simmons.
Yeah, I mean Justin Simmons. It's tough to try to do anything in his vicinity because Justin Simmons knows Pat so well. But
I saw this sentiment earlier, and it was like, why don't we just sign him in the offseason just so he couldn't do that?
Just so he couldn't do that. So it
was
a guarantee.
I understand the thought process, but
it's
as we'll get to, our safety room's actually been pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. But it's the offense obviously goes through the quarterback, and with Pat not really playing up to par. And I say this, but saying the fact that his bad performances, which we're seeing, are still like top 10, top 15. And I mean, he's still outshining a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL right now. But yeah, he's just not quite all there for what he kind of needs to be. And the offense is just a little discombobulated. Obviously, we've seen him kind of be a little antsy because of the pocket presence and the pressure that's been getting onto him and whatnot. But there's really nothing else besides just the fact that he has to play better, and he acknowledges that. Mm-hmm. And I mean, obviously, I have full confidence that he's gonna figure it out and work on these things and get better rhythm and chemistry with these guys on the offense. But it's just not very fun to watch right now. I will say it's just not the most fun to watch.
It's little things.
Yeah, it's little route things, just little throws, leading receivers.
He's missing guys by a half a step, or he's a little behind.
I remember he had a throw to Rasheed on a just a basic crosser that he just didn't put out in front of him, just kind of put up
just slightly right. I mean, right on him and hit him basically in the face.
Which I mean, you should catch that.
You have
but
to
also,
catch that.
It's little things where it's like if you place the ball better, it goes
and
he's
very good and he gets paid. But also, you have to help your quarterback.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, help his quarterback plenty. That one you have to catch.
Yeah, but there's definitely a good amount of throws that he was just slightly off.
There was the first one of the game. If you want to talk about to Rasheed, the first throw of the game, just I was like, why are we skipping rocks? What was that?
Exactly. Yeah, we've seen that a couple times now, where he's just kind of those low, weird. I don't know. I think it goes back to his base and his fundamentals, where he's just not really.
It goes back to his feet.
Throwing with his chest, he's just kind of slinging it with his arm, and I mean he's got a crazy arm talent, but you still need to do a nice drop bag and get your feet planted and throw it.
Even if you're going to throw from the different platforms which he throws off of, that's all fine.
He does. Yeah.
But if you're going to do that, you then have to adjust your arm and your upper body for it. So if you're going to make those throws, you still have to make them accurately. I don't care how you throw it there, just get it there.
So
and he's the same way, but the decision to throw the Simmons ball, I think, is
questionable.
One of those things where it's like, you can't throw that there. I
mean, it's just like the Bengals one last week.
I know Simmons came from across the field, but that's literally what I think he's literally a robber or the other free safety in that instance. That's what he's there for.
Yeah, I mean, Simmons just watching Pat the entire play, so he sees it pretty quickly, and obviously he's such an incredible athlete. He will get across the field very quickly in that situation.
Especially when you hang it up in the air like that. That thing was
exactly,
up there forever.
Pat tried to get a little cute with it and lob it up to Noah Gray in the back. But yeah, it's just it's just one of those things. You got to make a little bit better decisions. The guys have to kind of mesh around you better and find the right spots. It's not
things
just Pat.
Clean up. Lots of things to clean up.
Yeah, and it's not just Pat that the timing off and the rhythms off.
No.
Rasheed had a couple routes that were not run correctly. Xavier
apparently
Worthy had a couple
thought it was Worthy on the first one.
Yeah, exactly.
Andy said it was.
There was one route one play where both Rasheed and Xavier were kind of running the same route. just
Not
underneath
kind of.
crossers.
They ran the exact same route. One was just deeper.
Exactly. And Xavier pulls up because he's obviously senses that presence, but I think Pat was targeting him. He kind of threw it in between both of them, but it definitely seemed like
I
Pat
think
was
it was between
targeting
both
Zay.
of them because you see Xavier stop.
Yeah,
Because he thought
exactly.
I think Pat saw both of them, was like, well, I'm just going to hit Xavier because the defender is with Rasheed, not
Right.
Xavier. So I'm just going to Xavier and let him run for it and turn Rasheed into a blocker. Meanwhile, Xavier's like, why is this man
Why is
right
he
there?
so close to me? Yeah, exactly. So
that is not a defender. That is a teammate. What the hell?
So Andy alluded to post game that it wasn't Xavier's fault, which means that it was probably Rasheed's because he was the only other person who he could be talking about.
Andy said compadre and that ran the route incorrectly, and there's only one other guy.
Someone on Twitter, I forget who, it might have been Matt Lane or someone, but they drew up what the route and the whole play was supposed to look like, and definitely I think Rasheed was supposed to run a lot deeper than what he was. So just one of those things, minor things like that need the offense to get time. And obviously, Rasheed still had a fantastic day, 12 catches for 110 yards, his second 100-yard game of the season already.
He was the off offense.
Yeah, I mean, and that's
in the receiving
that's what we
category.
have to, I think, remember and even accept now is this offense. It runs through Rashee Rice. Like, this is the Rashee Rice offense now. And Travis Kelce, he's gonna slowly keep getting his, and obviously they're saving him a lot for later games. But early on in this stage, this is the Rashee Rice offense. Like, he is the reason that this offense is even close to being as successful as it is. His yard after catch ability. I mean, he leads the NFL, I think, in yards after the catch. He's such a tremendous player. He really
do that all the time.
That would be one Mr. Travis Kelce, I believe. And Mr. Rashee Rice was running some Travis Kelce-esque routes on Sunday night. And overall, it just seems like Rashee definitely is starting to get that sense of the field and the vision of what you need to see, being on the same page with Pat, and obviously just being a tremendous athlete and making guys miss, and just he's so good. I mean, there's no ifs, ands about it. Rashee Rice is so dang good at this game, and he's about as close to a number one receiver as you can ask for.
I mean, 12 for 110 or 119. What was it?
12 for 110. Yeah.
Yeah,
and a tud.
And probably could have had 20 or 30 more yards on a couple balls. So,
it is very firmly the Rashee Rice offense now, with a supporting cast of some good guys.
With that said, I want to talk about the Travis Kelce Rashee Rice thing, because we've heard it like 3 or 4 times now mentioned specifically that those meetings with Travis and Patrick in the quarterback room, and they're always in there together on the same page and talking about routes and watching film together. Rashee is now apparently in those meetings. We've heard that 3 or 4 times in the last 3 games. Yeah. Broadcasts and pregame infos and shows and interviews. There's a reason that that's being said in public, I think. And if you watch and Nate Tice put up a couple of clips today of Rashee, where it's him running Travis routes, where there's formations and things we've watched Travis do for 12 years now, basically.
Yeah, real long time.
It's the same, like the motion from the bottom of the screen in the trips formation up to the line of scrimmage to see. That's Rashee at this some of these sometimes now. It's not Travis. He doesn't have to do that anymore. They don't have to go to just Travis for those routes. Travis doesn't have to be, and his snap count came down some, but his targets seemed to go up a little. His yards increased, the production. So I'm glad his snap count came down some if the production's going to go up some.
Yeah, exactly. And they definitely seem to make more of an emphasis of getting Travis the ball this game. Obviously, he's still facing so much double coverage and just
all the time, every time.
That's the main issue.
Also, they have 2, as we just mentioned, I think, elite safeties with Justin Simmons and then Jesse Bates.
Exactly.
Those 2 I mean, very good at football.
That is most people's game plan going into these games, is to eliminate Travis Kelce. Now, I think obviously with the emergence of Rashee Rice and all these other guys, I think eventually someone will decide, all right, maybe we try to take away Rashee this week, and then that'll open it up for Travis and everybody else. So nothing to be worried about still, honestly, in my opinion, as far as Travis Kelce. He's still healthy. He's still good. He's still out there running and blocking and doing all the good stuff.
He's
So
really, really, really blocking this year. Almost like he thinks he
he's
needs
like
to
making it
prove
a
a
point,
point.
kind of. Yeah, he's like, oh, y'all didn't want me to be a receiver anymore. You want me to block? Okay, I'll show you. I'll show you that I can do the blocking stuff, and he's doing it pretty well. And the Chiefs are still winning, so you can't be too mad about the whole thing. So yeah, offensive wise, the passing game.
We need to get to the stars of the show.
Got to get to the stars of the show, of course. Making his rookie debut, well, not his debut, but his rookie start, his first ever start in his NFL career. Mr. Carson Steele had quite the night, skipping his sister's wedding to start for the Chiefs, the back-to-back champs on Sunday Night Football. Pretty good valid excuse to miss her wedding. But he came out and had a great game. I mean, 17 carries for 72 yards. We know what we get with Carson Steele. He just runs over people. And it seems like, he averaged 4.2 yards a carry. It seemed like he averaged 8. Like, it seemed like every time they handed him the ball, he was getting 8 yards. Like, it was a really good night from the rookie.
A downhill, get going, get vertical, get north-south, run some guys over. And he makes some moves, and he makes some people miss occasionally in the hole, which is good. Yeah. He's not the most crazy elusive back, but when you go out and that, again, that's not necessarily the most, we talked about it pregame. That's not necessarily the most vaunted defensive line in the history of the planet.
Yeah.
And you have 3 guys inside that can make your life as a running back pretty easy as long as you just follow 52, 62, and 65. Usually,
and they were having a good night too.
Things happen.
That interior 3 were moving bodies on Sunday.
Yeah,
which is what they're paid to do. Hey, that's what you're paid to do. And Carson Steele obviously took full advantage of that. And he's actually, it's crazy you say he's not elusive. He's actually almost seems like he's more elusive when he's like in a confined area.
Elusive. It's not.
And it's like when he runs up through the middle and a guy will hit him and he just like sheds off of him crazily. It's just like he's made
really
of butter
fluid,
out there.
And he's really solid in his core. Like there's not a lot of wasted motion. There's not a lot of extra noise. Yeah. You know how Pop slams his feet a little bit? There's not a lot of that. He's a lot more. He's a lot
big
more
long strides. Yeah, just big forceful strides. Honestly, he's you can see why he's
a power
somewhat
back, man.
compared to Pacheco because of just the pure power running of it. But I'll say it's going to be real fun to see both of them in this offense once Pacheco gets back healthy and they can have a good 1-2 punch of them.
Also
obviously, we saw it.
Some to his new practice squad teammate. So
Kareem Hunt, who I think will probably be active next week.
I will give a hat tip. Samaje is not necessarily considered a traditional running back. He had also a 4.2 yard average, 6 for 25. He was very efficient.
And he
was in the game
yards,
and he had some
15
catches.
yards receiving, so that's good. Yeah, Samaje Perine had a good little game too. Definitely.
Samaje was fine. Congratulations to Keontae Ingram for being suited up for a game.
Got some snaps. He did get some snaps on special teams.
Yep. Got some ST snaps.
Yeah. So offensively wise for the running back
Carson, like you mentioned, man, to go in there and start on a away game for your first start, and it's your sister's wedding to one of your good friends, it sounds like, because he was supposed to be a groomsman for the groom. So when you're doing all that and it's Sunday Night Football and it's in Atlanta, to go out and put up a nice solid evening, had a 9-yard long on his run, and
didn't get a touchdown unfortunately, which I had bet on, which I was pretty sad to not see him get that.
No,
last goal line carry.
We talked about this, I think, a little pre-show. I don't think it was on the actual part of this episode yet, but the stuff that they do at the goal line.
Yeah. Very silly. Very silly. We talked about
sometimes
it.
I know. We've talked about it on the show so often for so long now.
Yeah.
For the last 4 years now that we've done this, like I feel like I feel like Groundhog Day.
Dude. It is Groundhog Day. It really
God,
is.
I feel like we've talked about this before. They're inside the 5 and they're doing what the hell was that?
Yeah, I mean, you'd think after all these years they would
you've got
figure out
your
something.
running back that's never played a game taking a direct snap.
Direct snap, yeah, with Patrick in motion and the whole thing. It's very questionable still, the Chiefs
I
goal
love
line
it.
and
I
red
just
zone
love it.
situations.
It's
But
Andy being maniacal. I love it. It's great.
yeah. So with that being
It
said,
makes
one more
the games
person.
closer.
Yeah. One more person we had to highlight on the offensive side. Well, actually, I'll give a quick shout out to Juju because he had a touchdown on the night. Good to see him back in action and red. Obviously, has a lot more red, white, all white actually, which was very sick. Clean uniforms,
did like it.
white
And
socks.
are you not going to talk about it?
Yeah, the white socks. They mandated the white socks finally. There are no more half red socks, half white socks. Such a clean look. It's their best uniform. Hopefully, maybe they just use it as their main away uniform.
Garrett was very, very excited that they had them all wear the same color socks.
Yeah, I've been passionate about this for a long time. All right, this is maybe I secretly hope they make it their primary away uniform this year. You know, go back to 2015 Alex Smith days and where they wore the all whites like 7 times that year. It was great.
They might go do something crazy and do something like that, but I don't think they're going to make them primary away.
Make it the primary, I'm telling you. One more guy that we have to highlight on the offensive side of the football, down in the trenches, Wanye Morris, who got the start at left tackle this game in place of the second-round rookie Kingsley Suamataia. So that was something we talked about, obviously, leading up to the game. Andy had came out and said that they might have both of them play. The day or two before the game is reported by, I think, Ian Rappaport that Wanye was going to get the start, and he did, and he got all of the play at left tackle as well. So it's something that's we're very passionate about here because we have been questioning this plan at left tackle for the Chiefs, and it was very interesting to hear Chris Collinsworth on the broadcast mention that if Wanye hadn't got hurt during camp, allegedly, this come from Chris Collinsworth, so we had to maybe take it with a grain of salt. But they talked to the teams before the game and whatnot, and apparently, according to him, that Wanye was definitely slated to probably be the starter before the injuries. And so now that he is quote unquote fully healthy, which seemed like he was healthy for the start of the season, but whatever. He has now gotten the job of left tackle, and it seems like after Sunday night, it's going to be his job to keep for the next few weeks at least.
That's what it sounded like.
Yeah, so he didn't have a bad night. He had 2 pressures allowed on 44 pass block snaps. Obviously the big kind of the asterisk that you got to put on his play. There's two asterisks. First off, you're not going against Trey Hendrickson on the other side of the football. No disrespect to the Falcons D line, but they just don't have a dude like that over there.
Not even you, Matthew Judon. I appreciate
he's
but no,
great guy. Not on there. Other asterisk that you have to mention is the fact that they gave Wanye a good amount of chip help, which was something that we mentioned they did not do even a little bit early to Kingsley in his first 2 starts
against Trey Hendrickson.
Trey Hendrickson, the person you would think that you would do that for. They didn't, but they gave Wanye chip help for Arnold Ebikite. So it's
and Matthew Judon
and Matt Judon. So Kyle, I know you have a lot of thoughts about what the Chiefs' plans are.
I don't understand what the plan was. I guess per se, if this was your plan, your plan was to play the rookie. Because remind everyone, he was back at training camp. He was back in the preseason. Wanye was from the injury.
Yeah, he missed. I want to say he missed one. He might have missed one preseason game. I think he played the other 2. Though.
He participated in camp. He played at least in one. Like he was at training camp. He was involved.
Yeah, and he got hurt fairly early in training camp. I want to say it was like a week and a half in.
I think it was like the first couple of days.
Yeah, he had a knee injury that sidelined him for a little bit, and that's kind of what gave Kingsley that initial first jump of all this first team snaps and the
that was it.
Yeah,
And
so that was the
Kingsley was
thing.
back, and I'm sorry, and Wanye was back in at least by the third preseason game.
Yeah, and it still seemed
So,
pretty set in stone that Kingsley was the starter. So,
and then you played him against the Ravens, and he held
yeah,
up okay.
okay,
He
yeah,
had misses, and he had some learning moments. He's a rookie,
he's a
left
rookie.
tackle.
Yeah,
It's gonna happen, but he
he's not
wasn't
he's not
bad by
he's
any
not no
means. He
Joe
wasn't
Alt where
great.
he's like this blue chip prospect. Like he's a second rounder.
Who also still found out that the NFL is the real thing. T.J. Watt is a problem.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So then you take him and you stick him out there for Trey Hendrickson alone on an island without floaties or water or food or an instruction booklet on something he could try.
Yeah,
Nothing. And I know some of that is on the player, and he has to kind of swim in the deep water, but no help, not never. And then to turn around the next week with the guy you replaced him with, who was now being told by Chris Collinsworth that it was only his job because he was hurt, and
right.
now he's out here getting chip help left and right. Looks odd.
Yeah, definitely very odd,
Now,
the entire
that's not
situation.
to make it a conspiracy thing. It doesn't make a lot of sense, and that's what we just physically watched happen.
Yeah,
So, from that perspective, if your whole plan the whole time was that, and your whole thing, and you knew and you thought Wanye was the better option, why didn't we start there?
yeah,
Because now you've exposed Kingsley to this, and maybe, oh, Wanye was 85, 90, 95%. You wanted to hold him out. Well, okay, first of all, that'd be good. I know you guys don't like having to tell people these kind of things, but you do have to put them on an injury report if they're injured and stuff. It's looking at you, 49ers.
hmm, yeah.
Um, he's going to Germany, by the way. Did you
Going
see
to
that
Germany.
for his Achilles thing?
Yeah,
Crazy.
it's going downhill
Christian
from that.
McCaffrey, folks.
Yeah,
For those of you not paying attention to what we're talking about, but to do all of that, I great. You got him some snaps, and he had some teaching moments, and now what? He's gonna go fix what exactly in practice again? Like they're
yeah.
not.
I
Like
mean, it's
what
one
are
of
we?
those things.
I'm confused.
It's a lot easier to get those practice reps in game because you're actually going full speed against things that really matter in pressure situations instead of
And
just
that
going
seemed to be
against.
what more of his issue was
Yeah,
technique and failing to remember his technique because he was under fire.
right. So
But when
it's
you get your butt whooped by Trey Hendrickson for 60 minutes and everybody just kind of
yeah,
looks at you and goes, "Yeah, man, figure it out."
figured out, and it's like, well, hello, can you help me a little bit? It's certainly an interesting situation. We really haven't really seen something like this that Andy's had to handle where you have just two young guys. I mean, usually like we talked about it during the camp. It's like typically Andy has a vet that he wants to kind of rely on in that spot. So to have two young guys competing for it and then had to do this with starting them and then benching them, it's a very weird way to kind of do it.
Hope it works out.
Doesn't yeah Ultimately, if Kingsley is good enough and resilient enough mentally, and I think he is, honestly, it seems like he might be a guy who is resilient enough to handle this type of
I do
thing.
too. I just don't understand why you do it to even
Yeah,
jeopardize
I
a
mean,
team
it's just
getting
it's
there.
not you're not building confidence for
No.
sure, and long term wise, obviously Kingsley still has a bright future, and there's a very solid chance that he still will be the left tackle of the future for the Chiefs. But
Just
I
one
mean,
more
I
start
can't
to
I can't
that
necessarily
person's career.
yeah, I can't necessarily fault Andy for trying to make the best decisions for the team at the moment.
Hmm?
And if he thinks that Wanya is a little more ready because he has a little more starting experience, then so be it. But
Championship roster, you have to treat it a little different than
yeah,
most everyday
and
rosters.
it's you say that we haven't had this situation, and obviously you've never had this situation where you're going for a three-peat as well, and you're
Yeah.
trying to juggle between a rookie and a second-year left tackle. So if it would be a lot different situation, I think, if obviously if the Chiefs weren't the Chiefs and you're just trying to build the left tackle and get him a lot of reps. But when you need to win every game and all this stuff really, really matters,
When your quarterback is that guy,
yeah, exactly. You gotta make the
that's the factor.
decision.
And I think that's part of maybe why we've seen some of his fundamentals not be perfect is because he's getting heated
Yeah.
up because
Just
Kingsley was
uncomfortable in the
having some
pocket.
issues.
Yeah. It goes back to Pat being uncomfortable in the pocket, and that starts up front. So, we're going to see how Wanye handles it the next couple weeks. Obviously, you have, let's say, you're going to have a lot harder competition than the Falcons. We talked about the vice versa.
Maybe.
Well, yeah. Well, who knows next week? But going forward, I think you're going to have a lot stronger tests than what the Falcons gave us. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But it is Wanye's job for now.
Falcons team. They played well. I mean,
got to respect the Falcons. Honestly, they have a lot of good things going on over there.
Their offense did not have fun, which is what we're getting ready to get to.
Yeah, exactly. But a lot of respect to the Falcons. I think they still have a very good chance of doing things in the NFC this season.
The NFC is as wide open as wide open gets.
Yeah, the NFC is currently led by the Sam Darnold Vikings. So
yeah, like I said, the NFC
it's still anyone's
wide open.
Safe to say it's still anyone's game over there. So moving on to the Chiefs defense, who were much more so the stars of the night, had a very good night versus the Falcons. Obviously, only held them to 17 points. Bijan Robinson only had 31 yards on the ground, which that's pretty good from the defense to hold one of the top running backs in the NFL. Bijan Robinson, very good running back, and you could definitely see the glimpses of it in this game. But the battle was won up front by the Chiefs. This one, they were
glimpses, just very brief, very short, small pockets of windows into talent. Yeah, because this defense said no.
Yeah, the defense they definitely took this game over and made it pretty stress-free. I'd say this game I was a lot less stressed than the past two. Even though the Falcons were in a similar situation where they can drive down and potentially win the game and whatnot. Now it might be because of the Falcons and you have Kirk Cousins on the other side instead of Joe Burrow or Lamar Jackson. But still, the way that the defense was playing all night definitely inspired some confidence in me. And the first guy
felt a lot more calm.
It did, yeah. It definitely seemed like they had more of a handle on the situation than the past few games. Got to first and foremost, I think, highlight the MVP of the game for the defense, and I'm not giving him that title. The Chiefs gave him that title. They gave him the game ball, so he is the MVP of the defense. I'm just saying, this game he was Mr. Nick Bolton.
Yeah, he was
fantastic.
You know why? You know why it was great?
Why's that?
Because what did the Falcons want to do, Garrett?
They wanted to run the ball.
What does Nick Bolton do well, Garrett?
He stuffs the run pretty good. And it seemed like the Falcons were running at Nick Bolton a lot of these plays, which
also
not the most advised method to target
Zach
Nick
Robinson,
Bolton.
Former Rams assistant, not having a very good time against Mr. Chief Spagnuolo's defense.
So obviously
Nick Bolton played great, man.
Nick Bolton played
like
great.
I said, this is exactly what Nick Bolton does. That's a game that's perfect for Nick Bolton.
Yes.
They didn't ask him to cover Kyle Pitts at all.
Nope.
You noticed.
Finally,
a good freaking idea.
Yeah.
But the Falcons didn't make him cover Kyle Pitts at all.
They just tried running the rock on him.
Which is a bad idea.
It was good that he was able to stay in the box, stay near the line of scrimmage.
He shed blockers last night. I was like, oh, he got off a block and maybe wow.
I mean, there's definitely
crazy.
There was a belief that there was a little bit of rust on Nick these first couple of games, and it seems like that rust has been knocked off. I mean,
he knocked it off right into his back joint.
Yeah. I mean, he went out twice during the game with a back injury. We'll have to see what that ends up leading to.
He went down one. Actually, he went down 3 times with it, but one time he got back up and stayed in.
And stayed in the game. 2 times he had to come out.
Coming out.
So obviously what a warrior battling through all that stuff. But
also, not
he
great.
You got to give credit to Nick, and sorry, my internet just froze for a second. I'm back. Got to give a shout out to Nick. For, like I said, playing the game that he is good at. This is what he came out of college doing good. That's the main thing that we drafted him for.
This is his thing.
The run defense wise, shooting gaps, finding those holes, and making the plays when it counts.
Kirk Cousins tried to throw him a pick at one point. He just missed him.
Yeah, he sure did.
Just missed him.
So shout out to Nick playing phenomenally. Another guy in that linebacker room who played phenomenally. That doesn't necessarily show up on the stat sheet.
He only had 14 snaps.
Yeah, he only had 14.
I don't know how.
I don't
feel
either.
Like he had 40.
I mean, that's what I thought. But Leo Chenal, heck of a game from him once again. He's become one of those bright young pieces on the defense
We also should say he only had 14 defensive
snaps. Yeah, he had a couple on offense, a couple special teams.
1 on offense and 10 on special teams.
Yeah, so Leo, another really good night from Leo. Obviously, capped off by the final play of the game, where the Falcons tried to run the ball on fourth and short, and Leo decided to just move the wall of China, the Great Wall of China. He said, "This thing, let me move y'all back."
I also would like to point out most of those defensive snaps, he was like on the defensive line in a 3-tech or whatever. Like
that's where they've been using him. I mean, the Chiefs have come out and said, and I definitely believe it, that Leo is probably the strongest person on the team. Like,
that dude's a monster.
I don't even think there's a doubt. Like, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he's in there lifting more than Mike
every single time I watch him do something freaky strength-wise, I go back to when he just yanked himself up the side of a double-decker bus like it did not matter. That dude weighs 250-something pounds, and he was just like, "Yeah, I'm going up here, guys," and just pulled himself up on. It was crazy. The amount of strength you have to have, and then you watch him. The last play of the Falcons game, the stretch play to the outside, which we need to talk about because they ran stretch against Philly to death, and Philly got murdered by it.
Yep.
Spags was like, "No, you run at us is where we don't like it when you run at us.
Right. If you're doing stretch,
if we're going side to side, we're gonna destroy and it's one of those styles make fights things sometimes.
Yeah.
Trying to run an outside zone run scheme against this defense,
it's tough.
The way it plays right
Especially
now.
when you have Leo Chenal on the edge, just moving dudes 5 yards back as soon as the ball snaps.
So it's Leo, Mike Dana, and I don't know who the third guy farther inside on the line was. I think it's probably Chris Jones.
No, Chris wasn't even on the field actually for that snap.
That's even
turns
funnier.
out. I think it might have been Mike.
It was Leo and Mike were right next to each other, and then there's another person to the left of Mike.
It's Pinnell. Yeah, Pinnell is on the inside.
So it's Big Mike. It's Leo, Mike, and Mike.
Pinnell. Yeah, he moves the center all the way back.
Mike and Mike move 3 or 4 guys, roughly 5 feet apiece, straight backwards into the backfield.
Yeah, I mean, I'm literally watching the play now. Like they literally got moved 4 yards back from the last.
Yeah, like, destroyed.
It's hard to run a stretch play when your whole offensive line gets
and it wasn't like
right
and sometimes you can lose on that eventually. And you know how you talk. We've been talking a lot about losing instantly and losing quickly and losing slowly. Well, when all 3 of your linemen on that side of the line lose not slowly, when they lose instantly, automatically and get blown off the ball several yards, there's going to be some free space for a linebacker to come up and now. Fantastic tackle in the hole, 1-on-1. That's what he does.
I mean,
man.
You got to make that tackle still, and Nick Bolton sure did.
What he's great at. He's so good at that.
Yeah,
he's so good at that.
Yeah, Leo Chenal and the rest of that D line definitely killed that play before it even really got going.
And that's why it's a team game. Defense, and also even more so than offense a little bit because we talked about it with offense where you can freestyle and you can have 1 or 2 guys get on one for an offense, and then all of a sudden the offense is running as long as one of those guys is the quarterback. The defense, especially with the way Spags calls it, it's an all 11 pieces of the unit thing. Like everybody had that whole do your 111 moniker thing that they had a couple of years ago that he started makes a lot of sense with the way he calls his defense.
It does. And also on that last play, of course, kind of just a bad play call in general from the Falcons. Because the best case scenario on that play is that the fullback, who is Justin Allgeier or Tyler Allgeier, who is a running back.
Algier,
who is a running back who is only 220. The best case scenario in that play is that he meets Nick Bolton in the hole, and you're expecting that he's gonna block Nick Bolton.
Well,
Nick Bolton has a head of
I
steam.
mean, they
coming down
got
the
away
way.
with it earlier when they picked up the holding call for some magical reason.
Yeah, well, that was also Bijan back there blocking.
Who tackled him?
Yeah, so definitely just I mean that play was kind of over before it even started, but you know the Chiefs they made that one happen. So
that's a hell of a play, and it's such, like I said, it's such a picture perfect thing of why certain guys doing their certain roles make a huge difference,
yep.
because Mike and Leo and Mike blowing up and just completely shifting that whole side of the line leads to, instead of 1-on-2 in the hole, it leads to 1-on-1 in the hole, which is what you're asking for if you're a defense. And then your guy in the hole is the best at that part of what he does.
Yep.
We don't hate Nick Bolton. I just don't want him to cover Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, it's one of those Dan Sorensen situations. Like, hey, he's fine if you're not putting him at deep safety. You know, like what are we
And
doing?
then the guy we put at deep safety and Nazi had a miscommunication that led to one of their only touchdowns.
Yeah, well, that was more on Drew. Actually,
yeah,
Drew
that's what I'm saying. That's the guy they usually put it. Their linebacker
yeah.
they can and should be comfortable putting at safety, and he goofed that up
Just had a little
because
communication mix up. Yep.
Nazi was like, "Hey, switch this," and Drew was like, "What?"
Drew didn't hear that at all. Drew did not.
And just stayed with the running back and led to Drake London running. Wow, looked like Rashid, or looked like Xavier Worthy against the Bengals. Just, oh, that guy is really open. Oh, that's a touchdown.
Yeah, so obviously it wasn't a perfect defensive performance, but a really good one overall. A couple other guys we have to highlight.
But they were great, largely great.
Sticking on the defensive line, another guy we have to highlight, Tershawn Wharton. Yeah, just another phenomenal game. He is. It's so good to see him coming back from that injury and just playing absolute, like, some of the best ball we've seen him ever play.
He played 79% of the snaps last night.
Yeah, and for an undrafted free agent out of freaking Missouri S&T, like, just such a phenomenal player. The growth that he's had, the power, the strength, the technique. I mean, he's got everything. He blew up a handful of plays just by himself.
He had a forced fumble.
He did, yeah.
Sack forced fumble that Bijan kicked the ball out of bounds. Yeah. We would have had, like,
yeah, that was a funny one.
He hunted the ball out of bounds to keep the game recovered.
The addition and the growth of Turk in that spot next to Chris. I mean, that's a very good combo on that interior D line.
He's been excellent, and it was so tough a couple of years ago when he got hurt and he was out, and then he comes back, and you could just tell for a little bit he wasn't quite there, and he got it kind of honed in last year, and I thought this year might be a huge year for him, and I've been so big on this dude since they draft, like since the UDFA signed him.
Huge fan of there since
I was like
for so many years.
Man, he just jumps off the screen.
He does.
He's different athletically. The way he does things, the way he understands leverage and how to use his physical abilities, because we talk about Leo being a freak athlete. Turk Wharton is a monstrous human being who moves at a rate of speed that should not be possible for a guy that big. Guys, remember when they used him as a linebacker against the Chargers a few years ago?
That was Colin Saunders.
That's the same thing. That's my point. That's why Colin's in New Orleans. Because they had Turk Wharton, and he's now doing exactly what Colin was for them a couple of years ago. It's to watch them replace the talent over and over and over and over again. It's pretty crazy impressive. They have a type. They know how to draft the type, and they figured out how to develop the type. Spags and this group of defensive coaches has. It's been fun to watch. Colin was my first guy like that. Then we get Turk, and I watched him, and I was like,
what Colin even ever. I love Colin, but Turk is way ahead of anything Colin ever did.
And it's fun to watch because that's what I said. That's why Colin's in New Orleans. Turk was like, no, I'm a pass rusher, but I also am just freaky athletic and can play the run.
Athlete, moving bodies so easily, blowing up these plays, getting in the backfield.
Watch Chris do sometimes to guys. Like that SWAT where he's just by you with one hand movement, and it's like, oh, good Lord, okay.
It's good to see. Good to see. Couple other highlights. Got to mention
that elbow's better.
FAU got a sack. Shout out
Yeah,
Felix. He got a
Spags.
sack.
Spags got him
Yeah, he was wide
free
open
on
on
that
this.
one.
Yeah,
That was crazy.
that was a bad play by the Falcons left tackle there. Mike Pennell also had a sack on the game, so shout out Mike. He obviously had another great
First
day.
sack is second sack is a Chief, I think. I think he had
Mike?
one a couple of years ago.
I feel like Mike's had more than just 2.
He's only had 3 sacks in his whole career.
Mike? Really? That's crazy.
Mike Pennell, yes, I believe he's. Yeah. I that's a stat I vividly remember reading on Sunday. He's only had 3 sacks in his whole career, and 2 of them are with the Chiefs. One was this year, and one was a couple years ago.
Turns out. Actually, yeah, his first one was the Chiefs back in 2019.
19.
So shout out Mike for getting another sack on the.
And he like forearm shivered Kirk's feet out from underneath him. Yeah, because he was on the ground somehow.
So the D line had a pretty good night. Another guy who had a really good night in the secondary, Jamari Connor.
Again,
just another guy who is just continuing to be an absolute stud. Just a great find by Brett Peach once again in the late round. Has an interception off of a kind of a deflected pass.
I believe
that was
Tershawn Wharton. Yeah, hitting his elbow.
And then he intercepts it and then laterals it back to Jalen Watson for an extra 10 yards.
He like handed it to Jalen Watson.
Yeah, he gets tackled almost immediately. He just turns around. He goes, "Here you go." And then Jalen, all right, yeah, I'll take it. I thought it was going to be another
12 more yards out of it. Sweet.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be another Mike Edwards, Brian Cook situation like we saw last year.
House call.
Yeah, that would have been crazy. But hey, got extra 10 yards. I mean, hey, take it.
And they got points out of it. So
they sure did. So yeah, he had that. He had 10 tackles on the night, I'm reading these wrong stats. I don't know what stats I'm reading. 5 tackles, 5 assists.
It's 10 total. Yeah, so
10 total.
5 solo tackles. So no, he actually was the leading tackler on the
team. He had a couple good pass coverage, a couple pass deflections
several,
on the night,
including
that really good. So
I believe one of the ones down the sideline or near or in the end zone.
Yeah, he had a crossing route as well that was pretty good. So Jamari, I mean, just keeps on making plays, keeps on showing up when he's needed, and he's still not getting a huge workload, but when he's getting in there, he is making the most of it. So good to see him keep on developing. The other safeties, Brian Cook and Justin Reed, had an okay night, got a bunch of tackles. They were the kind of the lead tacklers on the team besides Nick Bolton, Brian Cook, Jamari Connor, and Justin Reed. So obviously a lot of action in the backfield, in the back half of the defense.
You have an established third corner now. Najee Johnson is now your third corner.
Yeah. Josh Williams actually didn't get any defensive snaps from
not one. Josh played 19 special team snaps, made a great play on special teams again. He's done that several times.
Yeah.
He's so Najee is taken
put himself into that role, and he had a good night too. He had a couple of good plays. I remember he had a blown up play that he had a tackle for loss on or something at one point.
And he also played 12 special team snaps too. So
yeah. So overall, I mean, from the defense going against the Falcons team, it's not the most high-powered offense, but they still have a lot of weapons over there. Obviously, you have Bijan, Drake London, Kyle Pitts. It's not Darnell Mooney and Ray McLeod. They have a decent cast of guys around there. And
I was a little surprised at how much time Darnell Mooney saw Trent versus Drake London.
Yeah, it was. They didn't really. I mean, they put Trent on Drake a little bit, but it definitely didn't seem.
I thought they were going to put him on Drake a lot more, and they put him on Darnell Mooney, and I was like, oh, okay.
It was very interesting. Yeah, it worked out. It ended up working out, obviously. Not too bad.
It did. That was something that we had talked about where, like I said, I anticipated that Drake London was about to get put in timeout, essentially,
right.
Like timeout, like Trent has to everyone else that he's played that's a wide receiver. He's just like, no.
Yeah, that's the treatment we've typically seen, but they went with a little bit of a different strategy this week.
And instead, they said Darnell Mooney, Mr. Veteran, Mr. Former number 1 in Chicago and whatnot. You're not getting anything really too productive, and we really didn't hear a whole lot from Darnell Mooney. So Spags doing different things again. It's September, and we're nitpicky in games like this and wins.
These are very nitpicky things that we're
winning,
about September,
but it's stuff we're nitpicky about because that's what we have to talk about right now, guys.
Yep, so that's what we got to do. So that kind of caps off the defense.
On that front, I want to reach back around to the offense just briefly, just
Okay.
wrap back around for a second,
Okay.
and talk about Justin Watson. And it only jogged my memory because some special team
That's awesome.
stuff. Yes, some special team stuff and whatnot. He only played 2 special team snaps last night, and played 29 of the offense's 74, which is like 39%. He saw a very increased workload at the wide receiver spot, while seeing a lot of his special team snaps kind of fade away. And I
Mm-hmm.
think, we also saw him make some key things happen, including that third down catch.
Yeah.
He also opens things up a lot for people, which is weird to say but for some reason,
I mean, teams are starting to recognize that he's
he
actually like
creates.
one of the main options on offense. I think.
So
Yeah.
with Hollywood being out, the step up of Justin Watson and the step up of Juju kind of doing
Yeah.
the
They have
whole
been using both
replacement by
of
numbers,
them more. Yeah.
and a little differently. They both have done some different things that they both do well. That's another piece of the offense I'm waiting to watch develop as this year goes. They haven't had a lot of time with those 2 guys in that role yet, and because
Yeah.
they were still expecting Hollywood to be back, which, by the way, if you got to see Hollywood stream, I think he watched the game while on stream. Not real sure. I think I saw him live while they were playing, so I'm pretty sure that's what happened, because I saw a quote from him about the return plan. He's basically like, "Yeah, we'll come back in January when we get everything. We got home field advantage."
Yeah. Come and live
And
the good life. Yeah.
anyway, it's a fun quote. It's he was talking on stream. I think like I said, I think it was during the game. I think he was watching the game on stream. So seems like he's in good spirits and ready and working on getting back with his rehab. But with him being out, that's a piece of the offense that's drastically different now when you're subbing in 2 different guys for his one spot to kind of do different things with.
Yeah.
It was of note to me that we knew they weren't going to play Juju on special teams. He
No.
doesn't do
Yeah.
that. And Justin Watson's special team snaps shrank, like I said, to 2, and he had almost 40% of the offense's wide receiver snaps. So
Something to watch.
something
Going
to pay
forward. See
attention to.
how they move those guys around and use them
And
in those different roles.
it jumped to mind because the stark difference in increase in Tershawn Wharton's numbers of snaps and the percentage was what made me think about Justin Watson's also going up from earlier. We didn't get a chance to talk about it, so I wanted to go back to that. So anyway,
Anyways,
but Harrison Buckard things for the most part.
3 for 3
for that one.
Yeah, well, he did miss an extra
point.
point. Yeah, first extra point missed since 2000 or 2022, I believe.
Yeah,
Whatever,
I think that's right.
Whatever.
Okay.
Definitely
And it
do
wasn't
got to
like
highlight.
He didn't miss it by far.
He actually hit the upright, which,
Square.
like I said, should be worth 2 points. I think that's harder to do than just making it. I mean, so something to consider.
As square and as flush as he hit it, yeah, it should probably be square.
But yeah, Harrison got the job done when you needed. Also, got to highlight Matt Ariza for potentially he might have had the game winning catch.
Yeah,
which is crazy to say with the punter.
James
but
Winchester ripped that.
Sailed one a little over his head.
Almost got that one. I mean, James snaps it hard and usually pretty much perfect every time. So we don't ever really talk about James much. Remember, he was banged up at one point earlier on this. In the
preseason. Yeah, he had Noah Gray come in.
Just remember, he was injured, and if those dudes get banged up,
one bad snap ain't gonna have.
No, I know, but he put a little extra saucy heat on that one, and it got a little away
Matt
from him.
Matt Ariza, his vertical on that thing.
Up, and Matt
he didn't wear gloves. He didn't wear gloves either. Some punters wear a glove or two, but he
barehanded that bad boy. He
almost had a turnover
James snapped
that.
I was like, uh-oh, that's gonna go over his head.
Yeah, that play almost had a turnover too, which people forget. But the guy was.
I'm gonna be honest.
Down.
I thought that ball was. I didn't think he had the vertical to catch that snap. I thought that ball was going over his head.
Turns out
he jumped up and made a heck of a snag and got a punt off that was not terrible.
Yeah. Now I will say I'm not the most impressed with Matt Ariza still 3 games in, but as far as his punting, I should say.
That was a big save.
But that was a very big play from him, and we'll keep on seeing what he does going forward. I'd say, not the great, huge, tremendous leg that we were necessarily promised, but he's his first NFL action. It's going to take him a little bit to get into that rhythm, but
he hits the ball. He's hitting them. He hit, and then the first one he hit was a little bit of a shank job. There, he got a nice bounce.
Yeah, the last one near the end of the game, it wasn't it's just when you're coming out of college and you're promised 80-yard punts, you expect an 80-yard punt every single time. So, we'll see how that goes forward. But overall, Chiefs, not a pretty win, but a win nonetheless, and that's what we're gonna take with us going forward. So, with that, we appreciate you all for tuning in and walking with us tonight. We will be back later this week to preview the Chargers game that's coming up this upcoming
very
Sunday.
Different Chargers team,
which there's going to be a lot to talk about, and it's not really Chiefs related. It's a lot of Chargers related, which is not good stuff for the Chargers. So
injuries, suspensions, not great.
Yeah, so we'll get into all that later this week. Obviously, we appreciate you guys so much for tuning in and rocking with us. Be sure to follow us at Kingdom Says Pod on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Yeah.
And check us out on YouTube if you're listening to us. If you're watching us,
and
check
vice
us out
versa
on podcasts. Yeah, do whatever you gotta do to support the boys. And yeah, that being said, thank you all for tuning in, watching, and rocking with us once again. And we will see you guys on the next episode of the Kingdom Says.